Greetings to all our awesome viewers once again. I'm Josana Sam, grade 12 student and head girl of Sharjah Indian School, Sharjah UAE. And I've been given this great opportunity to conduct this interview by EduTV. Today we have two amazing guests with us, Dr. Alpana Sharma. She works as the principal at DAV College Managing Committee. And we have Professor Dr. Poonam Devdutt, who's also the head of psychology department. And I'm really glad to meet both of you. You're such inspiring personalities. And I have a couple of questions with me over here to ask the both of you. So shall we start?
Sure.
So ma'am, my first question is to Dr. Alpana Sharma.
Yes, please.
Ma'am,
Yes,
ma'am. You're a really inspiring personality. And my first question to you is, do you feel the current way we are educating students fully prepares them for the needs of the 21st century?
Jyotsna, first of all, let me express my pleasure to see you here conducting such a wonderful session for both of us, and you being the youngster, an aspiring candidate and a student doing this forum. So congratulations from my side, being an educator, and being a principal of a school. I would like to congratulate you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You know, Jyotsna, as you have hit the topic, that is 21st century learner. So challenges ahead for all the educators, that the students are of 21st century and the teachers, they are basically the product, or they had their education from 20th century. But now it is 21 years have passed for the 21st century as well. So teachers have to be ready for imbibe all those 21st century skills in the children. And as far as this COVID scenario is concerned, I think everybody in the system became a learner in entire 2 years of this COVID pandemic scenario. May it be parents, may it be teachers, and the most important is the student at the global level. Because I must appreciate that all the teachers, they came up so smart during this pandemic time, that within in a short span of time, they could learn all the latest technology. Students did a wonderful, they played a wonderful role. Even parents became a co-learner in this entire journey. However, none of us was prepared and ready to face this challenge. So this technology interventions which came because of this COVID, I think we all did a wonderful job here, and we could come up to the expectations that education was not stopped, and online, which was the only mode we could come up to that. And I think as far as my observation is, we must say that teachers came out as educational warriors very smartly in this entire 2.5 years or 2 years of this pandemic time.
Yes, ma'am, of course. Teachers are to be appreciated a lot because they had to change a lot in their teaching techniques and things like that, and adapt to new technologies because of the pandemic. Thank you for your answer, ma'am. Now coming to Professor Dr. Poonam Devdutt. She's the head of psychology department, Shobit University. And it's wonderful to have you here too, ma'am.
Thank you.
Now, Dr. Alpana Sharma, she touched on the topic of online learning, right? And we're hearing news everywhere about how it has mentally affected a lot of students. And my question is quite unique. Are there any positive effects of this online learning? Has the pandemic affected people positively, their mental health? What are your opinions on that?
Thank you for your question, Joshna. And of course, before I start answering, I would like to give thanks to EduTV, which has organized this interaction on a very, very relevant and a very, very important topic. Why do I call it relevant and important? Because the vast proportion of our population in India today is youth. And your question and this interaction is pertaining specially to that segment of our population, the youth of our country, who actually are the future of our country. So it is important for our country to channelize the energies of youth in the positive way. Then only we can take real advantage of our demographic dividend. Our demographic dividend meaning our entire youthful population. Now, you've asked me about the positive effects of the online teaching and the changes that have come about as a result of the pandemic. And my answer to you is that, yes, it is a difficult situation, no doubt. But from every difficult situation, we can turn it into a positive factor if we learn the right lessons and we use it as a learning experience. So whether the pandemic has been positive or negative, collectively, of course, we can discuss it in several ways. But at the level of the individual, it is for each individual to decide how we take this situation. Every new situation which comes up, especially situations as drastic as this one, they have certain lessons for us. And it is for us to decide whether I want to learn those lessons and move on as a more enriched person, or whether I want to take a negative approach and grumble and cry and blame everyone for the situation. So my point here is that, yes, the pandemic has taught us immense lessons, and it is for all of us, whether it is adults or whether it is children, to take the right lessons. Now, what are the lessons that we have learned? Of course, the first lesson that we have learned is that anything can happen at any time. You see, we should never take things for granted. We should never take the world for granted. We should never take our good fortune for granted, because nobody could have predicted more than 2 years ago in 2019, if we go back there, nobody could have predicted that within a few months, everything is going to change so drastically. So that's the first lesson we learned, that life is so ephemeral. And therefore, what does it teach us? That we need to value every moment that we have. We need to be positive about all the facilities that we have, whatever we have. And from that place of positivity, of course, we can always strive to do better. So that's the first lesson we learned. Secondly, we learned that we need to look after not just this kind of blatant consumerism and materialism which had taken the world over. So we need to kind of sit back or step back and take a balanced approach. That whatever we call material progress, is it leading us in the right direction, or is it just taking us to consumerism and materialism and more and more and more of everything? In the bargain, are we concerned about the environment? Are we concerned about the underprivileged sections of society? Are we concerned about the natural habitat and so on? And are we also concerned about our own health? So health consciousness is one big positive fallout of this pandemic, that we've all become aware that we cannot survive just on junk food and too much of everything, but we need to be in closer alignment with nature. We need to have more natural foods rather than processed foods. We need to have a lifestyle which is more in sync with our biological rhythms. So whether we are sleeping well, whether we are exercising, whether we are resting, whether we are eating well, all these very, very fundamental, actually these things need to be very fundamental. We need to be aware. But somewhere along the line, in the quest for prosperity, we had forgotten perhaps all these things. And the pandemic has reminded us that no, we cannot take our physical health for granted. Thirdly, coming to the mental health. Yes, the pandemic has created enormous pressure on people, pressure of every kind. So many people have had so many sad situations. They've lost family members, they've lost their loved ones. In families, there are certain families where several members have passed away as a result of the disease. So it's taken a tremendous toll on the emotional and mental health of people. But at the same time, if we look at the positive side is that it has put the focus on mental health. Otherwise, earlier we were just taking mental health as something which was taken for granted, or all we thought was that yes, there are certain people who are mentally disturbed and perhaps they need treatment and they need to be isolated, they need to be put in asylums or whatever. But now we realize that every individual has mental health needs, and our own mental health can be very fragile depending on the situation. So that's another lesson we learned, that we need to be concerned about each other. We need to be emotionally connected. We need to be to learn certain habits of thought which will keep us mentally healthy and so on. So for the rest, of course, it has made so many of us technologically savvy. So it's brought about a technological revolution, which we can say is another positive fallout. Because as Ma'am Sharma was saying, that so many teachers who were just using the blackboard till now for teaching, they've learned to become technologically savvy, online classes, smart classes, and so on. And likewise for the entire population. So this entire digital revolution has been spurred by the pandemic. It made us realize that we have to look at alternative ways of doing things, and we may have to learn new technologies. We may have to learn how to do online shopping, online transactions, and so on. So in that way also, it has brought about development, that we have learned all these new technologies. And as for the rest, I would say that again, it is for each one to take the benefit, to take the positive aspect, and to move on in their life.
Yes, I really love your perspective on this. Yes, it's all about perspective, as you mentioned, and also your interpretation that this pandemic has also helped on reflection and things like that, and being one with nature. My next question is to Dr. Alpana Sharma, of course. Ma'am, you are an incredible educationalist. What do you think is a skill that is very important for someone who's in the field of education, teaching as a profession?
Most important skill required to be an educator is to identify the innate talent of every child sitting in a classroom. May it be a ratio of 20:1 or 40:1, whatever the standard, but every child, not only the top scorers or the brilliant lot, but every child is important. And a teacher standing in a classroom must have that like a skill to identify. First thing. Secondly, the next important skill is to cater the need of each and every child. For that, every teacher has to be positive in attitude to learn all the time. Because if we think that this is what the degree we have got this job, but throughout our journey of our services, one must be a learner all the time. Next important skill, that is how to engage your child in a classroom. That is again very important skill required, because just teaching and like one way process going on, it is a bilateral way. Both the child sitting in a classroom and the teacher both have to interact in a manner that a constructive teaching learning must happen. So for any teacher or any educator standing in a classroom, may it be through technology interventions or may it be the traditional way of teaching, a teacher's role is to play those skills, how they can take out the best of a talent of a child sitting in the classroom and engage the child in a constructive manner so that the child can be prepared for the future. It is just not for that particular age group, but the readiness for the future of a child, maybe for the 5 years or the 10 years to come. And nowadays, this challenge has increased a lot because of the 21st century skills and the kind of everyday the technological or the knowledge explosion is taking place. Moreover, nowadays, what we observe, gone are the days when whatever was there, the content in the books teacher used to deliver in the classroom. But now, knowledge is so much available for the children, but the role of a teacher is to convert that knowledge into the wisdom. That is what the skill is required of a teacher standing in a classroom. And if for that, the teacher has to equip themselves with the latest what's happening. That is again from the knowledge content. They have to update themselves from the skill point of view. They need to change, learn, adapt themselves. So adapt and adopt. These are the two positive aspects required to be a 21st century educators and to teach a 21st century learner. So this is what required from a teacher point of view and for the principal point of view, I think.
Yes, so one point that I really love that you said is, of course, engaging all the students and becoming a learner yourself. I have never heard that sort of interpretation before. And I think it's wonderful thinking that you must keep learning, even though you're a teacher.
Jyotsna, I would like to add here, few years back or in our previous, so many national educational frameworks, it was child-centric education, fine. Now, what the pedagogical changes are coming and what we observe now, that is child is at the heart of learning. School system, but everybody in a system has to be a learner, starting from my guard, maybe from my lobby in charge, my reception, maybe my teachers, my parents, my collaborator. Everybody into this system has to be a learner. Otherwise, we cannot progress and we cannot give what is required as educational institutions we are supposed to. We have a great responsibility. Nation building, character building, everything comes to us if in totality we think of. Because school education, it is an age-old saying that destiny of any nation is designed in its classrooms. So role of a classroom, role of a teacher, role of a teaching learning process is very, very important. So for me, everybody into the system need to be a learner. Only then we can shape up the future of any nation, any of this entire living or our life. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I think that's a really valuable insight that we got from you. My next question is to Professor Dr. Poonam. Ma'am, you're the head of psychology department, right? So even my first question was a bit linked to that about mental health. And this one is, it's curiosity, basically. So psychology is actually elective. You select the subject usually. It's not a compulsory subject in high school or below that. Do you think it should be such a subject like math and physics and things like that? Should psychology also be included? What do you think some of the advantages would be if it was?
Okay, so thank you for that question. Now, before I answer that question, let me explain what is psychology. Why I want to clarify that, because many people, of course, people have heard the word psychology, but many people who have not studied psychology are a little vague about what exactly psychology is. Sometimes people think that psychology is some kind of a magic through which you are able to read faces and you know exactly what's going on in somebody's mind and so on. So, that's not the 100% true. We do not read faces in that sense that we just look at somebody and we know his entire history. It's not like that. But what is psychology? Psychology is the science of behavior. And when I say behavior, it includes human as well as animal behavior, because along with, of course, our primary focus is on human behavior. But sometimes in order to understand human behavior, we also need to understand animal behavior. And behavior also includes everything that we do, what you see, but also what goes on internally inside, it includes our thought processes and so on. So psychology studies the individual from that angle as to what is his outward behavior as well as his inner cognitions or thoughts or beliefs. Now, having said that, now your question is whether psychology should be included as a compulsory subject of study. Yes, understanding human behavior is important for everyone, because after all, we are all social creatures. We live in society. We are constantly interacting with one another. And therefore, it's important that we understand each other's behaviors, why people behave the way they do, and so on. So to that extent, I would say that some insight into psychology is important for everyone. Now, what has happened is that traditionally it has not been included in as a compulsory subject in the curriculum, thinking that yes, these are things which are too close to our common life, and so it was presumed that yes, people would understand, through common sense or through interactions with others, we would learn from each other and so on. But I would also say that I do not think that psychology is a subject which can be taught below class 10 in the way it is being taught in the senior classes, simply because in order to understand psychology, you also need a certain level of maturity, a certain level of mental maturity in order to appreciate the concepts of psychology. But yes, certain things can be taught, certain things about human behavior can be taught, which is already perhaps being done in the sense of value education in terms of life skills and so on. So that is one point which I would greatly appreciate, that the current emphasis has been put on teaching life skills to school students also. So till now, there was not so much focus on life skills, but in the past few years, the Central Board of Secondary Education has also appreciated the fact that these kind of life skills are necessary. And what are these life skills? The life skills are like decision making, managing your emotions, being assertive, managing your time well, and so many other things which we require in our daily life, including communication. So I would say that it is not necessary to teach psychology as a theoretical subject at the school level. It is already there at the class 11 and 12 level. But yes, we need to incorporate the applied part of psychology, like for instance, the whole emphasis on life skills, as to how we can put these principles into practice in our daily life. So that is really important. But yes, I do feel that psychology should be included as a subject in even professional education, like for instance, education of engineers, education of doctors, nurses, and so on. Of course, some courses have already done that. For example, a paper in psychology is included in the dental course, it is included in the physiotherapy course, it is included in the nursing course. However, my observation is that till now, principles of psychology are not included in the medical curriculum, which is extremely important. There, it is only taught as psychiatry at the postgraduate level. So that is one thing which might be rectified. But yes, a certain elementary knowledge or a basic knowledge of psychology is important for all of us if we want to enrich our lives. You see, one problem has been that for a long time, it was thought that psychologists deal only with mentally ill people or with people who are disturbed. Now, I want to put that misconception to rest, because psychology is not just about abnormal behavior. Psychology's primary focus is on normal human behavior. And this whole new in the past 40 years or so, there's a whole new emphasis on positive psychology. Positive psychology deals with perfectly normal people, and the focus is on how we can um, improve our mental state, how we can improve our situation, how we can acquire more positive traits which will enrich our life further. So today I can say that psychologists are required not only for people who are disturbed, but for people who are perfectly normal, who are doing well, but they need psychological help to even perform even better, to enrich themselves even better, to enrich their personalities even better. So that is one thing which everyone needs to understand. We see this in our practice. Like we practice, I'm a practicing psychologist, and many a time people come to me and they express this feeling that they were hesitating to come because they were afraid that if they tell their family or friends that they are seeing a psychologist, what will other people think? Other people will think that I'm mad. So this kind of misconception needs to be uh, set aside because it is preventing many people from taking the help which they need. Also, a perfectly normal person may sometimes require psychological help because in order to deal with a difficult life situation, deal with a perfectly new situation, deal with a troublesome relationship, or deal with some issues at work, or as I said, or to take an important decision like a career decision or a vocational decision, what career to take, and so on. So those are the areas where the psychologist can be of tremendous help to people who are perfectly well functioning in their life. But every person at some point of his life may face a difficult situation. And if he is facing a difficult situation, he may need some expert help, just as we take the help of an architect when we are constructing a house, or we take the help of any other specialist in order to deal with a specialized area. So that is my answer to your question. I hope that satisfies your query.
Yes, ma'am, of course. And I think nowadays more and more people are interested in psychology. They're coming up. And of course, with individuals like you who would spread awareness about these misconceptions, I think it's the situation is getting better, but there's a huge way to cover, of course.
Yes, exactly.
My final question is quite personal. It's to the both of you. Um, what is your favorite instance or experience, any incident that you really liked during your own education? Some incident that you really remember. I think Dr. Alpana Sharma can answer first. Any memorable incident or person?
Um, I have, thank you, Jyotsna, for a wonderful question. You are bringing a child inside from us on this forum, and talking to you, such a wonderful young girl, aspiring head girl of UAEs. It's a wonderful question, my dear Jyotsna. Yes, we have so many fond memories, and but one memory I would like to share with you, which is very, very near to my heart. I started my journey of DAV as in DAV when I was just 24 years old girl, and I joined DAV Meerut here. I was one of the candidate who was like recruited on a very first instance on regular on roll, and after completing my 10 years here in Meerut, I was then selected as a principal and given another station in DAV organization only. Then bringing one more institution of the DAV in another state, I was again given back to the same institution, again the chair of a principal here. So it was a prestigious lifetime honor for me. From where I started my journey as a teacher, I became principal in the same institution. And I was very young compared to all my fellow colleagues. And I was given to lead them as a team. Year 2012, when I was reinstated in this institution as a principal, it was 25th year. We were like supposed to celebrate our silver jubilee in that particular year. So like we organized so many throughout the year, like activities for the children, and inter-school competitions, intra-school competitions. One final mega event was supposed to be organized. We prepared, I developed a wonderful team with my students, and my entire student community, a student council body, they were with me as a strong support, and they were rather doing all these activities. And we prepared teams. We had teachers team, we had parents team, we had the student council team, and they were doing all preparations. Fine. My head girl was Yajishta at that time, and one Shubham was one of was my head boy. And you know, when I was presenting my annual report, the boy was standing at the back of me, and it was my annual report was of say 15 minutes. We had wonderful newsroom. Through newsroom, we showcased our 25 years of journey, our alumni, and how they are placed at the global level, schools achievement, and but 15 minutes brief introduction was of mine, and then it was switched over to the students. So student council body, they prepared the final newsroom through newsroom. So like my head boy, who is at present working in one of a PSU and doing very well, outstandingly well. He is a CA. So he was standing by my side, and when I was narrating all accomplishments of the organization and of the institute, the way that boy was supported, the way he was acknowledging the things, and the way he interacted, we had a wonderful bond. That entire celebration of that silver jubilee still gives us goosebumps, and it gives us a strength to do more, better, to take the institute to greater heights, and what are the expectations of the children. So that particular journey of 2012 and the silver jubilee, we still remember. And yes, this is how we work, and this is how we lead ahead. So I think that involving children, it gives us an utmost satisfaction. So this is one of my cherished period and cherished time, which I always, whenever I sit alone, I always used to recall. So whenever I'm involved with my students, whenever we organize any event, whenever we engage them, that every time gives me great satisfaction, and I cherish all those. And we always try to march ahead from one step to another. So this is what I would like to share with you.
I think your video is silent.
Yes.
Your audio is silent.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
I'm using a mic over here. So
Yeah.
thank you, ma'am. Yes, Dr. Alpana Sharma, I think you painted a beautiful picture of that celebration to us. And I think it's just wonderful to hear that, how you remember that incident, which was years ago. I think none of us have such, students don't have such great memories, but you did. You painted such a detailed picture of it. Now, Professor Dr. Poonam, any such memories, incidents that you would like to share?
Okay, so yes, I would like to talk about certain aspects of my life, which are not any one particular incident, but certain things which stand out for me and which have molded and shaped me in many ways. So the first thing that I would like to share with you as a student, the experiences which I had in a number of different cultural festivals that we attended as students of Allahabad University. So I did my graduation from University of Allahabad, and we were very fortunate that we were allowed to attend a number of national cultural festivals organized by BITS Pilani, by IIT Kanpur, as well as our college Lucknow. So on several occasions, I was part of that team which went to these festivals, and we also won prizes. And in fact, at one occasion, we were declared as the best team in this National Cultural Festival. The learning experience which came about was when you see other students who are also excelling in their field, so it was a national festival. So the best teams from all the leading colleges and universities of India were present. And I used to participate primarily in debates and elocutions, or sometimes drama and so on. And there you are interacting with the best debaters of the country, the best speakers of the country, and winning prizes among them. But at the same time, that entire experience of being there as part of a team, working for your team, competing with others, learning from others, because there you see the cream of our education system. So that was an experience. All those events were experiences which are somehow, they become a part of your personality, and they mold and shape your growth. So that is one. The other aspect which has been very significant in my life is the kind of work that I have been doing as a psychologist. So I have been very fortunate, and I consider myself very fortunate with the blessing of God, that I have worked on an extremely wide canvas. So as a psychologist, I have worked with students, school students, students of some of the leading schools of India. I have worked with teachers of some of the best schools of India, and not just in the education system, but I have also worked with people in organizations, different kinds of leading organizations, whether it's banks or manufacturing companies, big organizations, or some of the best part of my work has been with the armed forces of India. I've worked with the Punjab Police Academy for senior police officers. I've worked with the Border Security Force Academy for senior officers, with the Indian Military Academy, as well as a lot of work in Meerut also with our armed forces, whether it is for the soldiers, their families, or the officers. So every time we are working with such a broad spectrum of people, there is so much that we also imbibe, as a person. It leads to growth. Every new experience, in fact, is something that shapes you. It brings you greater wisdom. It brings you greater awareness of what is happening. So that is the aspect of my work which I value tremendously. And and I can say with gratitude to God and with pride that yes, I may have been of some help to those people, but in the process, I have also learned and grown as a person, and it has helped me to become what I am. So these are certain aspects of my professional life which I value tremendously, and I consider myself very fortunate that I've chosen this career of a psychologist.
That was truly inspiring to hear that about your journey as a psychologist and during your graduation, your school days. It's just wonderful to hear all that. I can't stress on the fact that it's really, really inspiring to talk to two amazing individuals like the both of you. So I think that's the end of our session. I would like to express my gratitude to Dr. Alpana Sharma. She's the principal of DAV Meerut, and of course to Professor Dr. Poonam Devdutt. She's the head of psychology department at Shobit University. Thank you for sharing your valuable insights and being with us here today. I would like to also express my special thanks to EduTV and Mr. Pranav for giving me this great opportunity and conducting this very fruitful session.
Thank you very much to Mr. Pranav for organizing and EduTV and giving us this opportunity to talk to each other. And thank you so very much, Poonam ma'am, to hear you, your valuable insights on school education and psychology. And it's a great privilege to see a smart, young, budding anchor from the EduTV. Congratulations, and I wish you a bright future ahead. Thank you so very much to EduTV once again.
Thank you.